Before the 1970s, construction sites were slow, dangerous, and brutally labor-intensive. Then, in a single decade, a handful of machines rewrote the rules entirely. Hydraulic technology exploded. Steel got smarter. Operators could suddenly do in 1 hour what used to take a crew of 50 men an entire week. These weren't just excavators. They were the reason your city exists the way it does today. Number 10. Poclain HC300. To understand the 1970s excavator revolution, you have to start with Poclain, and the HC300 is the perfect entry point. Poclain was a French manufacturer founded in 1930, and by the early 1970s, they were one of the most innovative hydraulic excavator companies in the world. The Poclain HC300, introduced at the turn of the decade, was a full hydraulic crawler excavator that delivered approximately 300 horsepower and featured a distinctive twin-engine configuration on some variants. What made the HC300 remarkable was its modular design philosophy. The machine could be configured for standard digging, long-reach applications, or demolition work simply by changing out attachments and boom configurations. This versatility was genuinely groundbreaking at the time. The HC300 weighed in at around 70 metric tons, making it one of the larger excavators of its class in 1970. It was used extensively on major European infrastructure projects, including highway construction in France and Germany. The hydraulic system used a load-sensing design that was ahead of its time, allowing operators to control multiple functions simultaneously with less hydraulic lag than competitors could match. Poclain would eventually be acquired by Case Corporation in 1974, marking a significant shift in the European heavy equipment landscape. But the HC300's legacy lives on as a machine that proved full hydraulic operation could handle the largest earth-moving tasks. Number 9. Demag H121. Germany's Demag was a company with deep roots in mining and industrial cranes, and when they entered the hydraulic excavator space, they brought serious engineering credibility with them. The Demag H121, introduced in 1971, was a mining-class hydraulic excavator that weighed approximately 120 metric tons and featured a bucket capacity of around 7 cubic meters. What distinguished the H121 from its contemporaries was its purpose-built design for large-scale open-pit mining and quarry operations. At the time, many excavators were essentially scaled-up versions of smaller machines. The H121, by contrast, was engineered from the ground up for the stresses of continuous heavy-duty mining cycles. The machine featured a robust track undercarriage with a wide gauge, specifically designed to maintain stability on uneven quarry floors. Its hydraulic system used high-pressure variable displacement pumps that delivered more digging force per unit of fuel consumed than most competitors of the era. The operator's cab was positioned for maximum visibility of the work area, a design priority that Demag took seriously while many others still treated the cab as an afterthought. The HC121 helped cement Germany's reputation as a world leader in large excavator manufacturing and laid the groundwork for what would later become Demag's merger activities and eventual integration into larger industrial conglomerates. Number 8. Hitachi UH03. Japan was beginning to make its presence felt in the global construction equipment market in the early 1970s, and the Hitachi UH03 was at the forefront of that charge. The Hitachi UH03, launched in 1971, was part of the company's first generation of purpose-built hydraulic excavators developed entirely in-house. Hitachi had initially entered the excavator market in 1965 through a licensing agreement with Euclid, an American manufacturer. But by the early 1970s, Hitachi engineers were producing their own original designs. The UH03 represented a significant step in that independence, incorporating Japanese manufacturing precision with hydraulic engineering lessons learned during the licensing period. The UH03 was a mid-size crawler excavator well-suited for urban construction, pipeline work, and foundation excavation. It featured a robust slewing ring, a hydraulic swing system with smooth acceleration and deceleration control, and a dipper arm geometry designed to maximize breakout force at the bucket teeth. Japanese construction contractors working on the massive infrastructure programs of the early 1970s adopted the UH03 rapidly. The machine's success gave Hitachi the confidence and capital to invest heavily in research and development throughout the rest of the decade, leading directly to the larger and more powerful machines they would release later in the 1970s. The UH03 was not the most glamorous machine of the era, but it was a cornerstone of Japan's rise to dominance in construction equipment manufacturing. Number 7. Caterpillar 225. When Caterpillar, the most recognized name in heavy equipment, releases its first hydraulic excavator, the world pays attention. The Caterpillar 225, introduced in 1972, was exactly that machine, CAT's inaugural purpose-built hydraulic excavator, and it was an immediate industry landmark. Before the 225, Caterpillar had focused primarily on bulldozers, motor graders, and wheel loaders. Their cable-operated excavators existed but were increasingly outdated. The 225 represented a decisive commitment to the hydraulic age, and CAT's engineering team delivered a machine that immediately became a benchmark. The 225 featured an operating weight of approximately 22 tons and was powered by a Caterpillar 3160 diesel engine producing around 130 horsepower. What made the 225 stand out beyond its CAT brand pedigree was its build quality and serviceability. Caterpillar's dealer network was already legendary in the industry, meaning contractors could get parts and service virtually anywhere in the world. This practical advantage was enormous for large infrastructure projects in remote locations. The 225's hydraulic system featured a flow-on-demand design that reduced fuel consumption during light load operations. The cab offered better visibility than most competitors and included improved sound insulation, a meaningful upgrade for operators spending 10 or 12 hours a day in the seat. The 225 launched a product family that would expand through the rest of the decade and into the 1980s, cementing Caterpillar's position as a major player in hydraulic excavators after entering the market somewhat later than European and Japanese rivals. Number 6. Komatsu PC200. The Komatsu PC200 deserves a place on this list because its development story belongs entirely to the 1970s, even though its launch came at the end of the decade. Komatsu, Japan's largest construction equipment manufacturer, began the intensive development program that would produce the PC200 in the early 1970s, drawing on lessons from their licensed manufacturing of American designs. Komatsu's engineers spent years studying hydraulic circuit efficiency, track undercarriage durability, and operator ergonomics before committing the PC200 to production. When it finally launched in 1978, it was immediately recognized as one of the most technically refined 20-ton class excavators in the world. The PC200 featured a closed-center hydraulic system with load-sensing capability, allowing for precise simultaneous operation of multiple hydraulic functions without the energy losses common in open-center systems of the era. Its engine, a Komatsu 6D105 series diesel, was specifically tuned for the high cycle demands of excavation work, with an emphasis on low-end torque rather than peak horsepower. The PC200 became one of the best-selling excavators in history, and its influence on how 20-ton class machines are designed and built is still felt today. Versions of the PC200 lineage remained in production for decades, a testament to how well the original 1970s engineering held up over time. Number 5. O&K RH6. Germany's Orenstein and Koppel, known universally as O&K, had been building construction equipment since 1876, and by the 1970s they were producing some of the most technically sophisticated excavators in the world. The O&K RH6, introduced in 1974, was a hydraulic face shovel, a front shovel excavator rather than the more common backhoe configuration, and this distinction made it uniquely valuable for mining and quarry operations. The RH6 was a medium to large class machine weighing approximately 60 tons, powered by diesel engines in the 350 to 400 horsepower range depending on configuration. As a front shovel, it excelled at loading trucks in high-bench mining applications, where its geometry and breakout force gave it advantages a backhoe-configured machine simply could not match. O&K's hydraulic engineering was genuinely world-class. The RH6 featured a high-pressure hydraulic system with pressures in excess of 300 bar, which was at the leading edge of what hydraulic seals and components of the era could reliably sustain. The machine's durability in harsh quarry conditions was a key selling point, and O&K backed it up with a robust support infrastructure. The RH6 led directly to the larger RH series machines that O&K would develop through the late 1970s and into the 1980s, including some of the largest hydraulic excavators ever built at that time. O&K was eventually acquired by Terex Corporation in 1998, but in the 1970s they were one of the most respected names in the industry. Number 4. Liebherr R984. Liebherr is a name associated with quality and engineering ambition, and the R984, introduced in the mid-1970s, was one of the most powerful hydraulic excavators of its generation. This was a large mining-class machine from a company that had been building tower cranes since 1949 and had entered the earth-moving equipment business with serious intent. The R984 was designed for heavy mining and large-scale quarrying operations, with an operating weight in the range of 80 to 90 metric tons and multiple engine options depending on the intended application. Liebherr engineers built the R984 with a strong emphasis on long-term durability and low life cycle costs, a philosophy that made it particularly attractive to mining operators who could not afford extended downtime. One of the R984's distinguishing features was Liebherr's proprietary hydraulic pump technology. The company had invested heavily in developing their own hydraulic components rather than sourcing them from third parties, which gave them precise control over system performance and integration. The result was a machine with very responsive controls and excellent efficiency under varying load conditions. The R984 also featured a heavily reinforced upper structure and boom designed to handle the shock loads of continuous rocky material, digging a specific engineering challenge that lesser machines often failed to address adequately. Liebherr's willingness to engineer for the worst-case scenario made the R984 a trusted workhorse in some of the world's most demanding mining environments. The R984 lineage continues to this day, with modern versions of the machine still operating in open-pit mining operations around the world. Number 3. Hymac 580. Hymac is a name that fewer people recognize today. But in the 1970s, this British manufacturer produced some of the most capable hydraulic excavators operating on European construction sites. The Hymac 580C was a mid-size crawler excavator that became genuinely ubiquitous in the United Kingdom and across Europe during the decade. Hymac was originally a joint venture between Hister and Massey Ferguson, and their excavators combined American engineering heritage with practical British construction market knowledge. The 580C was powered by a Perkins diesel engine, Perkins being a British engine manufacturer with enormous credibility in the construction equipment sector, and delivered reliable performance in the wet, clay-heavy ground conditions common on British construction sites. The 580C weighed approximately 18 tons and was well suited for drainage work, road construction, housing foundations, and utility trenching. Its hydraulic system was straightforward and robust, which made it easier to maintain than some more complex European competitors. For smaller contractors who could not afford specialist hydraulic technicians, this practical serviceability was a genuine competitive advantage. Hymac machines became so common in the UK during the 1970s that many British construction workers of that era recall them as the defining excavator of their early careers. The brand was eventually absorbed into the British Leyland Industrial Empire and later disappeared, but during the 1970s, Hymac was a genuinely significant force in European construction equipment. Number 2. Kobelco K909. Japan's Kobelco, the construction equipment arm of Kobe Steel, released the K909 in 1978, and it immediately demonstrated that Japanese excavator engineering had fully matured into world-class territory. The K909 was a large crawler excavator designed for heavy civil construction and quarrying, and it incorporated a series of technical advances that made it one of the most discussed machines of the late 1970s. The K909 featured Kobelco's advanced hydraulic control system, which used a sophisticated valve arrangement to minimize pressure losses in the hydraulic circuit during combined arm and boom operations. This technical refinement translated directly into faster cycle times and lower fuel consumption compared to competitors of similar size and digging force. For contractors bidding competitively on large earth-moving contracts, the fuel economy difference over a long project could be substantial. The machine also introduced improved operator comfort features that reflected a growing industry understanding that operator fatigue directly affected productivity and safety. The cab featured better vibration isolation, improved sightlines, and a more logically arranged control layout. These ergonomic improvements were not trivial. They represented a real shift in how manufacturers thought about the relationship between man and machine. The K909 established Kobelco as a serious competitor in the large excavator segment and initiated the company's push into global export markets that would accelerate through the 1980s. Number 1. Volvo EC Early Series and the BM Volvo DR860. Taking the top spot on this list requires a machine that didn't just perform well, but fundamentally changed how the industry thought about excavator design. The BM Volvo DR860 and the early EC series development work that Volvo undertook in the late 1970s represents exactly that kind of paradigm shift. BM Volvo, the result of a merger between AB Bolinder Munktel and Volvo's construction equipment division, brought Scandinavian engineering philosophy to the excavator market. The DR860, a large-wheeled excavator introduced in the late 1970s, showcased what that philosophy could produce. Unlike most of its competitors, the DR860 was designed with an emphasis on total life cycle cost rather than just purchase price and immediate performance metrics. The machine featured a fully synchronized propulsion and hydraulic system for its wheeled configuration that was more sophisticated than any comparable wheeled excavator of the era. Its four-wheel drive system and four-wheel steering gave it exceptional mobility on public roads and across varied terrain, a critical advantage for contractors who needed to move machines between multiple job sites without low-breeder transport. But Volvo's most lasting contribution from this era was the development philosophy and engineering work that fed directly into the EC series. Volvo engineers in the late 1970s were systematically analyzing every aspect of excavator design, from track tension systems to hydraulic oil cooling, and establishing design standards that would define the company's excavators for the next several decades. The Swedish manufacturer's commitment to safety was also ahead of its time. ROEPs, rollover protective structures, and FOPs, falling object protective structures, standards were being incorporated into Volvo machines more rigorously than most competitors required, reflecting a Swedish industrial culture that treated worker safety as a genuine engineering priority rather than a regulatory compliance checkbox. Volvo's excavator business eventually became one of the most respected in the world, and the foundation was laid unmistakably in the 1970s engineering work represented by machines like the DR860. If you want to go deeper on any of these machines, detailed specs, operating footage, or the corporate histories of the companies that built them, let us know in the comments. And if you think there is a 1970s excavator that deserved a place on this list that we missed, make the case below. The history of construction equipment is richer and more fascinating than most people realize, and we are just getting started.